penalties and interest. You know, on these back taxes that they were charging me with because when I started Young Living as a co-op, I had a man by the name of Mike McClure brought his wife to me in 1987, Elaine McClure, that had malignant melanoma. They'd given her 4 to 6 weeks to live.
Well, that's really interesting.
I treated her, had her in my clinic for 4 weeks. She went back to Fife, Washington, where they lived just south of Seattle. And her doctors examined her and said, something's wrong. We can't find any cancer. So Mike McClure, out of his excitement for his wife being cured of malignant melanoma, went to his friend Richard Moss, who was in Shackley. And they came back to the clinic and spent a few weeks, and I sold them the marketing rights to what was then called Young Life Products. And they took it and started the multi-level marketing company in 1987. And they ran with it until the beginning of '89.
They're builders.
They never paid me the royalties and my monthly consulting that they agreed to in the contract. And Richard Moss got involved with the secretary, and anyway, it turned upside down. They'd bought in investors, and investors lost their money, and I finally got called in and was told they were filing bankruptcy. I said, it's my name you're filing bankruptcy on. Not going to happen. So they agreed to give me back my company, and they walked away. So I loaded everything in the trunk of my car and a U-Haul trailer, and that's all that was left, and hauled it to Reno, Nevada, 1989, and started over. And so the IRS went after me for the delinquent tax they had not paid in '91. I didn't have the money for an attorney, so I spent a solid year studying law. And I went to the Seattle Federal Court and represented myself in a tax court against the IRS.
But you got it cleaned up.
Well,
And I was pretty scared.
I bet.
So I sat down one night and I thought, I've got to have some help. And I made Valor, based on the old stories of the Roman warriors and the oils that they would put in the tubs and bathe in before going into battle.
Wow.
And I made Valor, poured it on the water in the tub and soaked in the tub. That night, got up, did it the next morning, drove to Seattle, and I'd rubbed Valor all over myself. Went into the court, was in the court for 11 hours, and I won.
Wow.
And that's how Valor came into existence.
And the reason for the name Valor.
Valor.
The Roman.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's a powerful story.
Hello, it's Kat in DC, and I'm lagging a little bit, so I'm gonna not move my head as much as possible. But, I just wanted to share that little clip that I found. I think YouTube has finally said, "Oh yeah, DC wants to see every single video of Gary Young ever created." So I found all these little like personal recordings that other people have, and they put it on their channel. And this one is of Gary Young holding someone's feet, talking about how he cured someone's cancer and made this incredible essential oil that he was able to defeat the IRS case against him. So take that for what you will.
And was consulting for other MLMs, and yeah.
Yep. And studied law for a year and represented himself and won. So again, Gary, not a lawyer, not a doctor, just in my opinion, a con artist. So and that's just my opinion. I'm not stating that as fact. So please, I mean, YouTube, don't sue me. I'm gonna let. Oh wait, I'm DC.
Young Living don't see you.
Oh, yes.
YouTube doesn't care.
Well, YouTube, please don't slap my video. I'm not disparaging anyone. And
Right.
and Young Living,
That's true.
it's just one person running their mouth on the internet. And I'm an MLM dropout. I was in Young Living, and I got out in April of this year. And before I let Kat introduce herself, I just want to say a big thank you to Avery running the comments behind the scenes. She's gonna make sure all the comments get on the screen so that everyone can see them. I know we have some people hanging out in Kat's chat, people hanging out in my chat, and love being able to see all the comments. I don't have the program to do that when I'm streaming with other people right now, so I'm super grateful that Avery did that again for us today. So, Kat, can you tell all the people about you and about like what you do here on YouTube and what you do in real life and all that other good stuff?
Yeah. So my name's Kat. I'm a licensed registered dietitian nutritionist and online nutrition coach. I focus in on sports nutrition, digestive health, prenatal nutrition, and overall helping people leave toxic diet culture and just create a healthy relationship with food. And I like to talk about mostly nutrition related MLM programs, products, things like that on my channel, kind of dispel myths, things that they're saying, issues with the programs that I see from my viewpoint. I used to be in multi-level marketing, and it was really hard leaving it, and did a lot to my confidence. But tomorrow I'm actually recording a video on health professionals in multi-level marketing, like just talking about it. It's really a fascinating area that I don't think we talk about it a lot. I know it's talked about, but not a whole lot. So yeah, I don't know. Side note.
Awesome. And Kat, you can get Kat services. You can sign up for her services on her website. She's currently taking new clients. And
wait, there's a radish. Yes, Beth. Beth Radish.
Yeah. So if you want to reach out to Kat, she is wonderful, science-based. She's a kind person, and she will not give you any BS. So if you're looking for someone to help you get back on track in terms of unlearning some of the toxic diet culture you may have been exposed to in multi-level marketing or just picked up through, sometimes it happens just through everyday life. She's incredible. And if you're looking for someone, go to Kat. So, okay. I actually loaded the stream up correctly, even though we were a little bit late. We're almost done with Justin Harrison. We've been talking about him for weeks and weeks and weeks. We're on page 1013 of these transcripts, and we may, I think we're going to get through Justin Harrison today. And guess what? There's more witnesses. So we're finally going to be able to talk about someone else, hopefully soon. So we're excited. We are excited about that. Live chat, incredible to see you. Love getting to talk to y'all. And I think it's going to be easier to do that. I think Avery's going to be able to star questions that we can answer during breaks. And replay crew, let's go. All right. Add to stream. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to move this over here so I can read. Oh, wait. Live chat. Y'all always get to decide. Are we doing baby snark today for Mr. Gaylord? Or are we doing polite demon lawyer? Y'all always get to pick. And I know I'm lagging. I'm sorry. I'm like trying to be very still. So, oh my God.
Or for Harrison.
Baby Harrison could be baby snark. I'm trying to download new voice mods. So hopefully next time when we talk to new witnesses, we can have new voices. So I'm working on that this week. Yeah.
Baby snark.
Okay. Awesome.
All right.
I don't think my chat's loading, so I'm glad that Avery can see everything.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Weird.
Yep. Okay. Perfect. All right.
Okay.
We're ready. Baby Snark is going to be the lawyer or Justin? I think it's going to be the lawyer. Maybe? Mr. Gaylord? Okay, we're all voting for Baby Snark. Love to see it. Should Justin Harrison... Oh, the lawyer.
Yes, lawyer.
Okay, Mr. Gaylord as Baby Snark. As debuting role. This is the recross examination. I'm going to move this, if you don't mind. Otherwise, we won't see each other.
That's helpful.
Oh, wait, let me put this up real quick. Mr. Gaylord, where are you? There we go. I'm actually going to start with this if I can. We've seen this a number of times. I'm going to try and be real quick. You were asked some questions by Mr. Smith about Exhibit 1164. If you would, pull that up. I think you were asked, if I may, Your Honor, I'll approach.
The court says yes, of course.
Actually, it's one page. You can just look on the screen.
Okay.
This is Miss Jellings's doTERRA enrollment form, right?
Yes.
Okay, correct me, if I may. You testified early on that you did not know Judy Jellings at all while you were at Young Living.
Correct.
She was not a distributor that you communicated with at all?
Correct.
And then you testified in response to some questions about 1164 from Mr. Smith that you recall having communications with her on or about April 1st, 2008. When she enrolled?
Correct.
Do you recall having communications with her? Actually, 1 or 2 calls before April 1st of 2008?
I do remember a call before.
Okay, and those conversations were informative in that she was asking you for information and you were providing answers?
Yes, she had questions about the compensation plan.
You were not urging her to join doTERRA?
No.
You also recall on redirect by Mr. Toth. He asked you about whether you were aware of lower level distributors. Remember that testimony?
Yes.
The lower level distributors that you became acquainted with did not include any of the 11 distributors you are accused of soliciting in this case, right?
Correct.
Although you did know before joining doTERRA Greg Anderson,
Yes.
and you did know the Herberts.
Yes.
You had known them since approximately 1995, correct?
Correct. 96.
Okay. Now, you were also asked some questions about what you suspected. That you suspected the executives might have been creating a new oil company. Do you recall that?
I do.
And Mr. Toth and you had a colloquy about the deposition testimony. Do you recall that?
I do.
Now, at the time your deposition was taken, you didn't have the benefit of Exhibit 21 and 105, did you? Exhibit 21 is your phone records.
I did not.
That's a document that's almost 292 pages long, right?
Correct.
And Exhibit 105 is another, 100 pages or so, right?
Yes.
Or 50. Okay. You didn't have any of that to refresh your recollection?
I did not. I mean, 50, 100, same thing.
Nor did you have Exhibit 51 in front of you at the time to refresh your recollection. That's the request for information that he showed you.
Correct.
And you didn't have Exhibit 36 in front of you at the time that your deposition was taken?
Okay, I've got it. Wait, no. What is Exhibit 36?
Let's pull it up if you may. 36 is in here.
Okay, I've got it.
You were not shown that during your deposition, correct? Deposition Exhibit 36?
What is going on with me? No.
You can close that. You were also asked a question about, if you recall, Mr. Toth went back and asked you about the October 11th, 2007 call that you had with Emily Wright. Do you remember that testimony?
I do.
Okay. And he asked you about whether or not Miss Wright asked you to become a founder of doTERRA, correct?
Correct.
Now, if she had, in fact, said that would have been something memorable to you.
I think so. Jess. Yes.
And she didn't
Jess
say,
is not new if anyone does not know.
okay.
She's been here very long. She has a podcast on Antebellum.
And she didn't say anything to that effect, right?
Where am I?
Line 14.
Oh, no. 14. No.
Let's pull up Exhibit 21, page 118. You were asked some questions by Mr. Toth about communications you had with Gordon Herbert in late February 27th and 28th. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
Okay. And by the time you had been speaking with Mr. Herbert in the end of February, you understood he had already committed to joining the new MLM?
Yes.
That commitment was made in February 9th or so?
Yes.
And he also asked you about the conversations you had with Mr. Herbert on the trip back from the legislature. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
And fair to say that the reason, strike that, Mr. Herbert was informing you, as you recall, the impression was you were making a bad choice for leaving your job. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's because you had a family at the time?
Yes.
And if you were to leave, you would have no income?
Correct.
And he was expressing concern that if you do that and go someplace else, your future is not assured?
Correct.
And on the February 28th meeting, was Lil Shepherd present at that meeting?
She was not? No.
Those are all the questions I have, Your Honor.
And the court says, any other cross, Mr. Smith?
Oh, God.
And Mr. Smith says,
Oh, God. Oh, yes, sorry. Do you want me to...
Mr. Smith, I think. Yes? No? Okay.
yeah.
I'll be Mr. Smith. Okay. So, your attorney, this is recross-examination. Mr. Smith says, so, your attorney just asked you about the documents you had available at the time you gave your testimony in your deposition. Do you remember that a second ago?
Yes.
Over the weekend, though, I had asked you to go through and analyze your phone records once again. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
When counsel says to you that it was unfair that you went back and looked at your phone records, was that the first real time after I explained to you to go back and look at what happened on the 8th and the 9th that you went back and looked on those days?
Yes.
And was it those days is when you found the call from Mike McLean that refreshed your memory?
It was.
Now, I'm curious about these calls with Rob Young. Rob Young in February of 2008 may or may not have yet decided to join DOTERRA. Do you know if he decided to join DOTERRA by that date?
Mr. Toth says objection, foundation, and the court says overruled.
Mr. Smith says, you can answer. Do you know if he decided?
I don't.
Do you know, you said at one point that Rob Young was formerly with Young Living and was your boss?
Yes.
What position did he have at Young Living?
I think he was a director of marketing.
And how long was he there while you were there?
3 months.
Did Rob Young come from New Skin? In other words, from New Skin over to Young Living?
No, I think he came from Shackley.
Shackley to Young Living?
Yes.
And...
No. Yes. I think it was New Skin, sorry.
Say that again, what you just said.
From to Young Living. Was that your question? Sorry. Yes.
Yes.
I do think he came from New Skin. Yes.
He went from New Skin to Young Living?
Yes.
Then he went from Young Living to where?
I believe Shackley. Who goes from Young Living to Shackley? Shackley is like so old. It's not going to be very productive.
Yeah.
Don't go to any MLM from Young Living, but still, like Shackley, really? Okay. I believe Shackley.
Shackley is another MLM company?
Yeah, in California.
Is your memory that he went from Shackley to DOTERRA at some point?
Yes.
And do you have any personal knowledge when Rob Young went over to DOTERRA?
I don't.
One of the questions that counsel said to you is, he said somewhere that after you had this meeting on February 28th down in St. George, you called all the founders and reported to them. Do you remember that series of questions?
I do.
And you said, quote, I don't think that's accurate, end quote. He said, He repeated it a number of times to try to get you to agree with him. Do you remember that?
I do.
Who were the founders of doTERRA to your knowledge?
Emily Wright.
Hang on, pulling up the board. Emily Wright, who's a defendant here, right?
Right.
Who else?
David Hill.
David Hill. This is Dr. Hill?
Yes.
Who else?
David Sterling.
Who else?
And Greg Cook.
I almost put Greek Cook. Who was Rob Young a founder?
When?
I don't know. Was he a founder in your mind at any time?
Yes, later. He came later.
Did he come before you came?
My recollection is he came after me.
Okay, so Rob Young, question mark, but was he a founder by February 28th? The call that he was calling you about?
No, I don't believe so.
Not yet?
No, not yet.
How about Jeff Carden, the attorney? Do you know if he was a founder or not?
No, I don't think so. He was the attorney.
Okay, so there was a Jeff Carden, but he was an attorney.
Yes.
And you don't know if he had an interest or not.
I don't.
Okay. And Rob Young, this individual that you don't think was a founder yet by February 28th, that there's some phone calls. There's some phone calls between you and him before February 28th that were pointed out to you by counsel, correct?
Correct.
Let me see if I can tie down for a moment when this Mike McLean meeting happened. The Mike McLean meeting I'm referencing is sometime right here between December of 07 and January of 08. He had a conference with Mike McLean wherein he indicated that the company was going to be named doTERRA. Do you remember that?
I do.
Let me have you look at which is in evidence as exhibit number 15.
1015?
15. On that page. On that page, this is an email to Dave Sterling, from Dave Sterling to Rob James on the second page of it, and it's dated January 27th, 2008. Down on the second page in the middle, quote, taken so we resorted to Latin, end quote, and it has, quote, doTERRA, end quote, highlighted. Can I have that blown up? Did you know that the name doTERRA was selected in January of 2008, January 27th?
No.
Does that refresh your recollection of when this McLean meeting happened? If the name was selected by these gentlemen and Miss Wright, as this email says, on January 27th of 2008, does that mean your communication with Mike McLean happened after that date?
It would have to, because he knew the name.
Is that consistent with your memory? It would have been in late January.
Yes. But wait, hold on. So wait, on that page, taken, so we resorted to Latin, and that has doTERRA highlighted. So doTERRA, is that
Latin?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wonder what they were trying to get at before.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Interesting things that we're finding out in these transcript conversations. Are there any questions that have been? I don't think so. I don't see any. Okay. I don't see any at the top or anything like that. Normally there's a tab, but
it just says doTERRA on this translation.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I wonder what doTERRA, is it like of the earth or something? I don't know.
I don't know.
If
it says translate from English doTERRA, or from Latin to English, it's still doTERRA.
Okay. Interesting.
Interesting.
Okay.
That was just Google Translate. I don't know, but
I'll have to ask XCal. XCal went to Latin school, so XCal.
Gift of the Earth. Oh, interesting. But that one was taken?
And do you know when companies form themselves, they file with the Department of Corporations, sometimes their name change. Do you know when the name change happened so the company was then called doTERRA? Do you know that at all?
That I don't.
Let me show you what I have just marked as Exhibit 1296. See if this refreshes your memory. I've already given it to counsel, Your Honor.
The court says thank you.
It's 1296. It's a one-page document called Amendment dated January 30th. Does this refresh your memory as to when the name DOTERRA was publicly displayed so that people like Mike McLean could pick it up?
Mr. Toss says object to the form of the question, improper refreshment.
Does this refresh your memory as to when you had your communication with Mike McLean?
Mr. Toss says same, again, same objection, Your Honor. Can we approach for just a minute? The court says yes, and a sidebar discussion was had.
So look at this document for a second. I really just need to have you pay attention to the date on it and look at it for 1 second. I'll just say it's a document that references DOTERRA without going into more detail. Does that document refresh your recollection as to when you had the meeting with Mike McLean about the name DOTERRA?
It does.
And when would that meeting have been?
Had to have been the very end of January.
End of January. And so if I were to put up January 27th, do you have a problem if I put up January 30th as the end of January is when the meeting occurred?
That's fine.
Now, counsel pointed out some calls you had with Rob Young. Do you know who came up with the name DOTERRA?
Rob Young did.
How do you know Rob Young came up with the name DOTERRA?
It's part of company lore. It's been talked about since day one.
Rumor and hearsay within the company. Is that what it is?
Yes.
You don't have any personal knowledge how he came up with the name DOTERRA?
Personal knowledge? No.
You weren't around at the time?
No.
I want you to assume for a moment that name came up with Rob Young. I want you to assume for a moment that that name came up with Rob Young in or about January 30th. Are you with me for a moment?
Okay.
When was your first call to Rob Young? Do you remember?
I don't.
Counsel displayed some pages. Maybe I can go to them. I think in your phone records, they were on page 21 Exhibit 21, page 117 and 118. It's on page 100. And it's going to be lines there's an earlier one, 106.
Page 100, 106?
Yes, this was not shown to you earlier. It was probably just a mistake, but the first phone call that I see in your records on Exhibit 21, page 100, is at least line 106, and it shows on February 2nd a phone call to a number that we believe to be Rob Young. Is that right?
That's correct.
And I asked you to look at over the lunchtime if that was Rob Young's number, and it was, in fact, Rob Young's number in your phone, right?
Correct.
So you called him on February 2nd, is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember if Rob Young's name had been mentioned at DOTERRA as being associated with the DOTERRA people?
Young Living. I do recall Wade Winiger kind of throwing a fit about Rob Young Consulting.
Rob Young Consulting?
Rob Young Consulting for doTERRA.
When did Mr. Winiger throw a fit?
Oh man, my best recollection would be sometime in February.
February of 2008?
Yes.
Was it before this call that you made to Rob Young? I looked on my calendar. February 2nd looks like it's a Saturday. Do you remember if you knew Rob Young's name before you called to him on February 2nd?
I don't remember.
These are other calls. There were a few of them pointed out, and what purports to be a call between him on his cell phone, and then one that's purported to be a call back from the doTERRA office. Do you remember what you called Rob Young about?
I don't.
Were you pumping Rob Young for the same information you were trying to get from Dr. Hill? Do you remember?
Mr. Toth says objective form, asked and answered, and the court says overruled. Harrison says, it's possible, yes.
I don't want you to guess possible. I don't like those kind of answers. Do you know if you were pumping Rob Young for information about doTERRA just like you were pumping Dr. Hill for information?
Mr. Toth says asked and answered, and the court says sustained.
Other than it's possible, do you have a specific recollection of what you said to Rob Young or what he said to you in any of the calls, either identified by me here or by Mr. Toth a few moments ago?
A specific recollection? No.
How about a general recollection? Do you have any general recollection of what you said to him or he said to you in those conversations?
I don't.
Okay, now Rob Young at the time in February of 2008, do you know if he was under any restriction to contact you in any way?
Mr. Toth says objection, foundation.
If he knows.
The court says I'll allow it.
Do you know of any restriction?
I don't know of any.
Were you under any restrictions of not calling Rob Young?
No.
On this Exhibit 51, this is the one where I think it's called Request for Information. Counsel asks you if there was some misstatements or lies in there. I think he called them untruths. I don't think I took a book back. How is it? Here it is, 51. On this Exhibit 51, which you signed in February of 2008, it says that you are soliciting information from doTERRA. Do you see that first paragraph?
I do.
Was that accurate? Were you soliciting information from doTERRA?
I was.
And if Rob Young was associated with doTERRA, you were soliciting information from him by making phone calls to him. Is that accurate? If he was, I know you don't remember if he was at the time or not. If he was, you were soliciting information from him.
Yes. Mr. Toth says, object to the foundation of that question, Your Honor. I think it assumes facts, not an evidence. The court says sustained. Mr. Toth says, move to strike the answer. And the court says stricken.
Do you know if Rob Young was associated with doTERRA when you were making the calls to him in February of 2008?
Mr. Toth says, asked and answered. The court says overruled. And Justin says, I don't believe he was.
For Dr. Hill, you were pumping Dr. Hill for information from time to time, correct?
Yes.
Where it says in here, quote, I acknowledge that I have initiated any and all contact, end quote. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Had you initiated all contact?
Yes.
I have no other questions.
The court says, anything else, Mr. Toth? Mr. Toth says, just a couple questions, Your Honor, if that's okay. And the court says, okay. So now, moving into the direct examination.
Does Mr. Toth should be baby snark?
Redirect.
So,
Yes.
redirect? Okay.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Toth, redirect examination.
And this is short.
Oh, cool. We're getting through. Mr. Harrison, finally. Mr. Harrison, just very briefly, you said Mr. Young, Rob Young, came up with the name doTERRA sometime in January, correct?
I don't recall if it was January, but yes, he came up with it.
And that was, he actually came up with the name of the company, correct?
Yes.
And your phone calls with him were in February of 2008?
Correct. Correct.
Thank you. Nothing further.
And Mr. Smith says, just one more question.
Oh
And
my
the court
God.
says, all right. So back to re-examination. We're done with the short little redirect.
Oh my God.
This one is also short.
Wait, am I
I don't even know who I'm supposed to be anymore. Oh, you indicated, wait, is it Mr. Gaylord?
Yeah. Mr.
Oh.
Gaylord. No, Mr. Gaylord just decided to jump in really quick. He
I
was
have no
he
question.
was snarky at the very end.
Gotcha. I have no questions, Your Honor. So, Mr. Smith, you indicated at some point in time while still at Young Living, Mike McLean then started to record names to try to reserve internet names under the name doTERRA.
Mike McLean. He did.
Dang. This is so much. Yes, it
So
is.
right, okay. Mike McLean started to record names to try to reserve internet names. Started to
Yes.
record names
Under the name
under the name
doTERRA.
doTERRA. While still at Young Living.
Yeah.
Indicated. Okay. That was a lot. He did.
It would have been after the meeting you had with him, which was the end of January 2008,
Correct.
and before you left on February 11th, 2008.
Correct.
That 11-day window?
Yes.
In that 11-day window, did you happen to see Rob Young's name when you were trying to record all these doTERRA names looking over Mike McLean's shoulder? Do you know?
I don't.
Thank you.
The court says anything else, Mr. Toth? Mr. Toth says no, Your Honor. The court says any objection to excusing this witness?
No. And then no.
No.
Your
Is he
Honor.
subject to being recalled? I think subject is to recall, Your Honor. All right. Subject to being recalled, then you're excused, Mr. Harrison. And Mr. Harrison says thank you.
Thank you.
Next witness, Mr.
Oh my God.
Young Living calls Pat Lovett. So
Holy, let's take a comment break real quick. What the hell? We're finally done with Justin Harrison. Heck yeah.
finally,
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the voice effects were I feel like the voice effects helped make this not super dry to read. Except
and
that-
Patricia Lovett hers is small overall.
oh, holy crap. So we can get through her too?
I mean, smaller.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Because
it's
we're only at 36 minutes, so this has never happened before.
that's
This
true.
has never happened before. Corinthians wanted me to tell you guys. She says hi and thank you. Oh, hi, Corinthians.
Every single time, is Corinthians a cat?
It's a girl. I think she's 3. She's a little girl. She loves the
Oh,
voice
a
mods, and
human.
she's a real person. She's Christina's daughter. Yep.
Aw.
Yeah. She loves Polite Demon Lawyer and Baby Snark. But I think she likes
That's
Polite Demon Lawyer
adorable.
the best.
Aw.
So I'm just gonna
How cute.
Hi, Corinthians.
Hi, Corinthians.
yeah. So she likes listening to the transcript reading, I think. Maybe not as much as other stuff, but holy crap. All right, Patricia Levitt. Okay, who is Patricia Levitt?
We've just heard her name being talked about, thrown around.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I think I took over Avery's job. Sorry, Avery. I'm sorry. Avery's back there going, stop it. Oh my God. Yeah, Avery's managing both chats, and it's a whole moment. So, and we are all internet aunties of Corinthians. Yep. All right. Okay. Patricia Levitt. I don't even have a good
We need more voiceover.
I have a megaphone. I have a tiny robot.
Small robot doesn't really work that well.
No, because you can't understand that.
Yeah, Baby Snark. We're gonna have to do Baby Snark or something.
Okay, that sounds good. Baby Snark's good.
Okay. All right. Okay, so do you want her to be Baby Snark, or do you want the lawyer to be Baby Snark? Oh my God, the robot. Yeah, these were pre-installed on my soundboard, so I have to download other ones because I'm getting that we have to have more variety than these guys. So, yeah. For sure. So, Kat, what do you want to
I guess you've been the lawyer. So I guess we can do her.
Yep.
Patricia Snark is baby. Or Patricia Snark.
Patricia Snark, witness number million. I don't even know what witness we're on. We're not far enough, that's for sure. Okay.
2, 3.
Baby Snark reporting for duty. Patricia Levitt.
All right. We are ready to go. So direct examination by Mr. Straight.
Okay.
It's like a little over 20 pages. 24.
Okay, cool. Mr. Straight. Oh, let me go. Let me pull it up. Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, Ms. Lovett.
Good afternoon.
Are you a doTERRA distributor?
Yes, I am.
Who is your enroller at doTERRA?
Wendy James.
Who is your sponsor at doTERRA?
Wendy James.
What is your doTERRA distributor number?
1041.
Have you been successful in your doTERRA business?
Yes, I have.
Mr. Gaylord says objection, relevance, and the court says sustained. So it's not relevant to ask her if she's successful. All right. Back to Mr. Straight. Are you a U.S. founder distributor for doTERRA?
I am.
Have you ever been a Young Living distributor?
No.
What phone numbers did you use in 2008?
have no idea.
Did you use the home phone number of redacted number?
Could have at that time.
How do you not know I know my phone numbers from like the 90s when I was in elementary school.
Must be the essential oils getting to my brain. You know, I'm losing some brain cells.
Yeah, I can recall them still. All the phone numbers I've had. Okay, and used. And did you have the cell phone number redacted?
Yes.
Where did you live, Miss Levitt?
St. George, Utah.
How long have you lived there?
17 years.
You mentioned Wendy James just a moment ago. How do you know Wendy James?
She's my daughter.
So do you also know her husband, Rob James?
I hope so.
Was Wendy James the person who first introduced you to doTERRA or what would become doTERRA?
Yes.
Prior to that invitation from your daughter, Wendy James, had you heard anything about the new essential oils company that would become doTERRA?
No.
Did your daughter, Wendy James, invite you to a meeting about doTERRA?
Yes.
And did you attend that first meeting that your daughter had invited you to?
Yes.
And where was that meeting?
In St. George, Utah.
Do you remember where specifically?
At Gina Truman's?
Now, Miss Levitt, do you remember being deposed in this case?
Yes, I do.
Had your deposition taken?
Uh-huh. Affirmative.
If I could bring up a copy of your deposition transcript, may I approach, Your Honor? And the court says, yes, of course. Mr. Straight says, and Miss Levitt, if you would look at your deposition transcript on page 16, I'll give you a second to get there. Mr. Smith says, objection, Your Honor. There's no showing of a need for a refreshed memory. Mr. Straight says, I'm not trying to refresh memory. I'm trying to impeach. Mr. Gaylord says, no need to impeach. Mr. Straight says, yeah, there is. You'll see it if you just look at it. Mr. Smith says, I would ask counsel without telling the witness to identify for the record what he would like us to look at if I believe it's impeachment. Mr. Straight says, sure. What are we going to look at? Or sure, what we are going to look at is page 16, lines 1 through 5. I'll give you a chance to get there, Miss Levitt. Mr. Smith says, I think he's conflating two issues.
Okay, page 16.
Mr. Smith says yes, and Mr. Straight said yes, and Mr. Smith, oh my goodness, he says, Your Honor, it's not impeachment. The date that he's referencing is referenced on page 15 at line 10, which is not the meeting he's now trying to impeach her on. Mr. Straight says, Your Honor, I can establish this. If you look at page 14, line 20, first learned of doTERRA, her daughter invited her to a meeting. Page 16 describes what I'm impeaching about. Mr. Smith says, no, it's a different date, Your Honor. I object. It's not the same. The court says, overruled. You can certainly explore that on cross. Okay, back to Mr. Straight. And Ms. Levitt, I asked you, quote, what did you say to Wendy in response to that request, end quote. And you said, quote, no, end quote. And then I said, quote, did you nevertheless attend the meeting, end quote. And you answered, quote, no, end quote. Do you see that testimony?
Yes, I see.
The very first meeting that Wendy invited you to, you did not attend. Is that right?
I didn't.
Mr. Smith said objection. The court said, what's the objection? Mr. Smith said vague as to what he's now referring to as a first meeting. Is this I'll withdraw the objection, Your Honor. And the court says, all right, go ahead. Back to Mr. Straight. So my question is simple, Ms. Levitt. Did you attend that first meeting about doTERRA that your daughter Wendy invited you to?
No, I attended. No.
But you did attend a subsequent meeting about doTERRA at the Alumni House in St. George. Isn't that true?
I did.
What is the Alumni House in St. George?
That's a home that was donated to the university to raise funds and a place to have meetings and a conference center.
Was the alumni house meeting the first time you heard the actual name doTERRA?
No.
When had you heard the name doTERRA?
When Wendy called and invited me to a meeting.
So again, if you could look at your deposition, we'll go to page 36 this time in your deposition. We're going to look at lines 11 through 15. I asked you, quote, "So can you place the time," end quote. And Mr. Smith butted in with, "Objection, not impeachment, not used to refresh recollection." Back to Mr. Straight, he says, "I'm not trying to refresh memory, Your Honor. Impeachment." Mr. Smith says, "Not impeachment." The court says, "I'll allow it." All right, back to Mr. Smith. Can you place in time when you actually heard first the word doTERRA? Quote, answer, "I do not know when it was, a meeting we had at the alumni house, but I don't remember when it was," end quote. Did I read that correctly?
As written?
So you testified that the first time you heard the name doTERRA was at the alumni meeting in St. George. Isn't that true?
I was wrong.
You were wrong. So what you testified about under oath in your deposition is wrong. And you're changing that testimony today. Is that right?
Yes.
You were wrong. No, I just read that. Right. So you were wrong because your daughter Wendy had first mentioned the name doTERRA to you the first time she called.
Because I didn't really remember.
I want to make sure now we have an accurate record. The first time you heard the name doTERRA was when your daughter Wendy invited you to a meeting about doTERRA?
That's correct.
That was prior to the alumni house meeting, is that right?
Yes.
At the alumni house meeting, isn't it true that you learned what the name doTERRA meant?
I don't remember.
Now, if I could have you look at page 38 of your deposition. This one, I'll just have you read to yourself. If you look at page 38 and read lines 3 through 10, and when you're finished, I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
Does that refresh your memory? It was, in fact, the alumni house meeting. That was the first time you learned what the name doTERRA meant?
I don't remember.
That's the way you testified to your deposition. Isn't that true? Mr. Smith says, "Objection, argumentative." The court says overruled. And
Repeat.
Patricia Levitt says repeat.
Repeat. Yep.
Oh, I just started talking.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Straight says, yeah, that's what you told me at your deposition was the first time you heard what the name doTERRA meant was at this alumni house meeting in St. George. Isn't that true?
To the best of my knowledge.
And Miss Levitt, just to make sure we're clear here, if you look at that deposition transcript, that deposition was given on February 10th, 2017. So just this year, right?
Correct.
And you were there, correct?
Yes.
And you were put under oath, just the same oath that you took in front of the jury today, correct?
That is correct.
What does the name doTERRA mean?
Is this a trick?
No, I just want to know. I'm sure the jury does.
Gift of the earth.
You were also shown essential oils at this alumni house meeting in St. George. Isn't that true?
A few.
Which oils were they?
I only remember maybe frankincense.
Tell us a little bit about those oils that you saw at this alumni house meeting in St. George.
I didn't see oils. I remember seeing frankincense.
Okay.
I know. That was it. They talked about them.
And what did they say about the oils you saw at this alumni house meeting in St. George?
They were a gift from God.
That's presumptuous of them to say. Okay. Did they have proper labels on the oils?
Not that I remember.
Were they in small bottles?
Small bottles.
Did you have an understanding that they would get more proper labels going forward?
Don't remember that was.
Let me have you turn again to your deposition, page 38 in your deposition. And you said, I'll wait until you get there. I'm sorry. We're going to look at page 38, lines 3 through 10.
Go ahead.
Do you need your reading glasses?
What makes you think that?
I'm squinting too.
I got it.
Fair enough. They're kind of like being rude to her.
Yeah.
Man, they are grilling her. I mean, wow. Okay. Fair enough. Page 38, lines 3 through 10. I asked you, quote, so what happened during this meeting at the Alumni House sometime after April 3rd, 2008, when you first heard about doTERRA? Answer, quote, well, we heard what the name of it was going to be and what it meant, what the name meant. And they showed us oils with labels that weren't going to be the same labels. They were just paper labels until they came up with something else, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Was that truthful testimony when you gave it?
Yes.
Now, this meeting at the Alumni House in St. George, Emily Wright was not there. Isn't that true?
At the Alumni House?
Yes.
I don't remember.
And you can't remember whether David Sterling was at the Alumni House?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. Excuse me. You don't remember whether David Hill was at that meeting either?
I do not.
Ms. Levitt, do you know Gina Truman?
I do.
And how do you know Gina Truman?
Her and my daughter Wendy are very good friends. Gina lived with me in our guest house for a year in Vegas.
When was that?
I don't know.
Did Gina Truman invite you to a doTERRA meeting at her house?
She did.
And you attended this meeting at Gina Truman's house, didn't you?
I did.
How long did that meeting at Gina Truman's house about doTERRA last?
I have no idea.
There were a lot of people there, though, weren't there, correct? Mr. Gaylord says objection, vague.
Yeah,
The court says sustained. Mr. Straight says, how many people were at that meeting?
I have no idea.
Do you remember testifying previously that there were a lot of people there?
There were people there. I have no idea how many.
Okay, let's take a look at your deposition again. Go to page 17, very bottom of page 17. I'll wait until you get there.
Okay.
I asked you, quote, who attended that meeting mid-April 2008 at Gina's house? Answer, quote, a lot of people, end quote. Do you see that?
Okay.
So any reason to dispute that testimony you gave in February in your deposition?
I just said, quote, a lot of people, end quote. I don't know how many.
Don't know how many. Okay. Justin Harrison was there. Isn't that true?
Are we talking still at the Alumni House?
No, I'm sorry. Very important. We are now talking about the meeting at Gina Truman's house that you attended.
Yes, Justin was there.
Justin was there. And Justin Harrison spoke at that meeting at Gina Truman's house, didn't he?
He did.
He talked about the testing of oils that doTERRA was going to do, didn't he?
He did.
He talked about the company doTERRA, didn't he?
He did, yes.
He talked about the doTERRA oils, didn't he?
Yes.
You invited some people to join you at the meeting at Gina Truman's house, didn't you?
Oh, God.
Mr. Gaylord says, objection, relevance. The court says, what's the relevance? Mr. Straight says, trying to determine who all attended this meeting. I think they put it at issue about this February 28th meeting. And Mr. Gaylord says, objection. The court says, I'll allow it. Go ahead. All right. So Mr. Straight says, who were there we've got to answer the question first. You invited some people to the meeting at Gina Truman's house, didn't you?
I did.
Who were they?
Linda Green, Diane Barnhart, Julie Nielsen, and Sandra Woodfelt, who is deceased.
Now, did all of these events that we just talked about, the invitation from your daughter, Alumni House meeting, and the meeting at Gina Truman's house. Did all of those events happen during or after the first week of April 2008?
I have no idea.
Isn't it true in your deposition you testified that they did all happen during or after the first week of April 2008? Mr. Smith says, objection, incomplete question. It's not used for impeachment. It's not used to furnish. It's not accurate. The court says overruled. Back to Mr. Straight. So you can answer. When she says overruled, that means you can answer.
That means I have a short memory. You need to repeat it.
No problem. Did the fact that he explained, I feel like he's like mansplaining to her. When she says overruled, that means you can answer. Like,
I know, it's like, you're the lawyer here, sir. Like, I'm not a lawyer. And this lady's not a lawyer. We don't know. You have to, like, give me a break, sir. Come on.
He's being, I feel like he's being kind of more rude to her than to the men.
Yep, seriously.
Like, even just reading this, I feel like, ugh, that's.
Yeah, I'm like, ugh.
And I know I'm adding a little bit of tone, but still, like the word.
I'm adding a lot of tone.
Yeah. Okay, and she's adding a lot of tone too. So I feel like I can feel some of her frustration in her responses.
Yeah.
Okay, not a fan of Mr. Straight.
Yep, same.
Okay, all right. So no problem. Did all of these events, the 3 meetings, invitation from your daughter Wendy, Alumni House, and meeting at Gina Truman's house, happen during or after the first week of April 2008?
You know, I might have remembered that day. That doesn't mean I can remember now.
And also, side note, this is not in there, but if her daughter is the one who is like active in DOTERRA, her mom is going to be like a little bit older too. So like he's also like kind of being rude to someone who might be a little bit older, which is really sad and upsetting. Okay.
Freaking rude.
Okay, all right. But isn't it true you told me in your deposition that they did all happen during or after the first week of April 2008?
I don't remember that, or I would have answered that day or that way.
Let's take a look then. Page 14 of your deposition. We're going to take a look at lines 20 to 25. And line 20, I asked you, quote, so when did you first learn of doTERRA or what became doTERRA? Answered, oh boy, I just remember being invited to a meeting that my daughter Wendy was aware of. And it was a meeting that was going to be held here in St. George in April of 2008, end quote. And if you look over to page 15, line 8, starting at line 6, quote, so your daughter Wendy told you about a meeting in St. George about doTERRA, is that right? Answer, quote, that is correct. Quote, when did she tell you about that? The answer was, quote, she called me on the 3rd of April, end quote. Mr. Smith says, Your Honor, I would object. This is not impeachment used to refresh. He's not allowed to read to the jury to refresh and show the witness. We've been through this before, both Rule 36 and recorded recollection under 802. Mr. Straight says, may I respond, Your Honor? Mr. Smith says, I object. The court says, go ahead and respond. Mr. Straight. The response is when the deposition testimony was empathetically one way and I can't see.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you get. And the testimony at trial is, quote, I don't remember, end quote. I'm allowed to impeach. Mr. Smith says, that's called refreshed memory, Your Honor. He is not allowed to read to the jury on refreshed memories. He's allowed to show the witness and see if it refreshes her memory. The court says sustained. Back to Mr. Straight. Based on what we just looked at, you did testify in your deposition that events all happened in April 2008. Isn't that true? Mr. Smith says, objection, Your Honor, misstates the record. It's an attempt to go around the court's ruling. It's not all that all the meetings were not read. The court says sustained. Back to Mr. Straight. Isn't it true, Miss Levitt, that you testified in your deposition that the first time you heard of doTERRA, or what would become doTERRA, was in April of 2008? Mr. Gaylord says, objection, leading. The court says sustained. Mr. Straight says, I'm sorry, what was the objection? The court says leading. Mr. Straight said, Your Honor, under 611C2, this is a witness identified with an adverse party. As the rule says, the court should allow leading questions during that examination. The court says, I'll allow it. And Mr. Straight, back to Mr. Straight. Now, I don't remember the question either, Miss Levitt. Let's see if we can remember what it was. Isn't it true that you testified the first time you heard about doTERRA from your daughter Wendy was in April of 2008?
I said that in my deposition.
And you want to change that testimony now, is that right?
I just don't remember.
I think we actually figured out in your deposition that it couldn't have been in April 2008, right?
No.
So prior to your deposition, did you get some understanding that April 2008 was somehow important to this case?
No.
Let me have you turn now. I've got a little exhibit binder. If I could approach, Your Honor, and the court says, yes, of course. Mr. Straight says, Your Honor, for you. The court says, thank you. Mr. Straight says, Susan, don't publish this to the jury yet. If you go ahead, Miss Levitt, and turn to page Exhibit 86, page 11, it says 86.0011. If you see there, Miss Levitt, just tell me when you're there.
I'm there.
You signed Exhibit 86.11, correct?
That is correct.
And you entered the date of February 28th, 2008. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Move for admission of Exhibit 8611. Mr. Smith said, woo, laundry, yay. Mr. Smith did not say that. Tanya is almost done with her laundry. That's awesome.
That's awesome, Tanya.
Mr. Smith said, no objection. Gaylord, no objection. The court says, I'll receive 86.11. Mr. Gaylord says, just receiving this one page, right? And Mr. Smith said, just this one page, in addition to the others that are already in. Now, this is a document we reviewed at your deposition that indicated things. Things had happened earlier than April. Isn't that right?
I don't remember this paper at all.
Okay.
In the deposition.
So have you done anything since your deposition to understand anything more about this document, Exhibit 8611?
For instance?
I don't know. Did you ask anybody about it? Did you look at any old papers? Anything more you know about Exhibit 8611?
I do not remember when I was given that paper.
Okay. Why did you sign Exhibit 8611?
Because I wanted to know more about doTERRA.
Who provided you Exhibit 8611?
I have no idea.
Was it provided at the meeting at Gina Truman's house?
I don't know.
And certainly by February 28th, 2008, you had already heard the name doTERRA, true?
Yes.
So do you have any memory of the circumstances surrounding your signing of this document, Exhibit 8611?
No.
Now, Rob James, your son-in-law, and Justin Harrison both testified that they had attended a meeting about doTERRA at Gina Truman's house on February 28, 2008, okay? And is it true the same meeting that you attended is that the same meeting you attended at Gina Truman's house?
Yes, we were at the same meeting.
Is that the same meeting that you invited your 4 friends to attend with you?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, Susan, don't publish these to the jury. But if you could, Miss Levitt, look at page 2 of Exhibit 86.
It was my friend I invited. Yes.
And which friend is that?
Diane Barnhart.
Your Honor, we move to admit 86.2. Mr. Smith says objection, lack of foundation. Gaylord says hearsay. The court says response. Mr. Straight says, can I just ask a couple of follow-up questions to try to lay some foundation? The court says sure. Back to Mr. Straight. Did you observe Ms. Barnhart sign one of these requests for information also at that February 28th meeting?
Absolutely not.
You just don't remember?
I don't remember.
Okay, let's then turn to page 6 of Exhibit 86. Do you recognize name and signature on page 6 of Exhibit 86? Mr. Smith says, objection, question is compound as phrased. Mr. Straight says, sorry, I'll rephrase. Do you recognize a name on page 6 of Exhibit 86?
Yes.
And who is that?
Linda Green.
She's one of the other people you invited to this meeting at Gina Truman's house. Is that right?
Uh-huh. Affirmative.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you also recognize Miss Green's signature there on Exhibit 86.6?
I see the signature. I can't tell you if that's hers or not.
And it's also dated February 28, 2008. Is that right? Mr. Smith says objection, reading from the document not admitted. And the court says sustained. Back to Mr. Straight. Now let's have you turn to page 19 of Exhibit 86. Do you recognize a name on page 19 of Exhibit 86?
Yes.
And who is that?
Julie Nielsen?
Is that another one of the people you invited to the meeting?
It is.
Would you help me, Ms. Levitt, remember who the other person was?
Sandra Woodfelt.
Sandra Woodfelt was the other person you had invited. Now, Ms. Levitt, you signed an IPC agreement with doTERRA, correct?
I did.
And you understood that the IPC agreement you signed was entered in doTERRA systems a lot longer after you signed it, didn't you?
Yes.
And in fact, it was entered into doTERRA systems weeks and weeks after you signed it. Isn't that true? Mr. Gaylord says objection, vague. The court says sustained.
Very vague. Weeks and weeks?
Mr. Straight said, was that your prior testimony? It was entered weeks and weeks?
Yeah, but I have no idea when it was entered.
But it was weeks and weeks after you signed it, correct?
That's correct.
No further questions, Ms. Levitt. Thank you. The court says, just for the record, I don't think we got the correct spelling of your name. Could you provide that for the record, please? And then they're just spelling Patricia Levitt's name. Whew.
Holy crap. I think that's a good place to stop, right? Do you think so? Or you want to keep going?
I don't know what.
It is one. We've been doing this for 107. We can keep going. Let's take a comment break. We have one starred comment.
That would be fine to stop. Yeah. The next is a cross by Smith, and then a redirect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Melissa J said at this point I would be like, well, why don't you tell me, Mr. Lawyer, sir, since you seem to know my testimony better than I do.
I just feel like he was so, I don't know. I know it was, the point is to get the information. It was very direct, but still. Yeah,
I think everyone has their own style. They're trying to aggressively represent their client, and the witnesses don't really, I don't know, but I feel like there's some level of respect that you should offer to people you're talking to, but that's just me.
Right.
Holy crap. I feel like this is, I don't know why they're having her. Maybe they're trying to use her to establish if the people who are in the case reached out and broke the rules about recruiting people into doTERRA, but I'm not really getting why she's being questioned unless someone else understands. Oh my god.
Yeah. Just because she was there at the events seems like the meeting at Gina Truman's house, the infamous meeting.
Yep.
And other meetings.
Yeah, maybe it's like not corroboration, but maybe it's like supporting the timeline of events.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's being super rude. One, the way that he said it, like, "Oh, do you need glasses?" And I don't even know if he said it politely, but the way she responded, you can tell that was not polite. That was not polite.
If he would have been like, "Do you need glasses?" or like, if he would have said it nice, I don't think she would have responded in that way.
I know, especially like be nice to like the older generation too, because they're probably a little like, you know, sensitive about getting older anyways, and like treating them like they're deteriorating is just awful. Oh my god.
It was kind of hard to get information from her, but it was also
that's how witnesses should be though.
Yeah.
So like at least witnesses, I know I'm lagging. The witnesses, they're supposed to like answer exactly what is asked of them. So she's been a better witness than some of the other people. I mean, Gary was like awful, but they're supposed to be more like, yes, no. And it's the lawyer's job to ask better questions for sure.
Yeah. It's not like an interview.
Yep, deteriorate. Oh my god, I love it. Deteriorate. It's the best.
Deteriorate. Have you seen Lemonade Mouth? That movie, Disney movie. It was like over a decade ago.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Oh, there's a song. I think it's called Determinate or something. I don't know, but
Deteriorate. Oh my gosh, I love that.
It reminded me of it.
I love that.
Please tell me I'm not the only one who knows Lemonade Mouth.
I've heard of it. I just haven't seen it. We didn't have Disney growing up, so
yeah.
Lemonade Mouth, yes.
Yeah,
Avery knows. Avery knows, yes.
Oh man, I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah.
But
so, do we want to finish her, or do we want to wait to finish her for next week and just finish the document?
I mean,
or what would you like to do?
We normally go to. We can do the cross.
Okay,
cool. That's page 186 to 198. So.
Oh, cool. We can get through that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Sassy Patricia.
And then the next one 2 pages.
Okay, great. All right.
So yeah, 186, and we can stop at like 200.
Okay, cool.
That'll finish her out.
Great.
Mr. Smith, cross-examination now. Okay. These meetings took place about 9 years ago. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you were residing in St. George at the time?
Yes.
And Wendy and Rob were residing in St. George in a home that you had made available to them. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And what was, as you viewed it, your daughter's relationship with Gina Truman? How close?
BFF.
And I think...
Best friends forever.
That's cute. I saw that on a traffic sign just this week on University Avenue. How long have they been best friends? How long have they been BFFs?
Oh boy, since Wendy was single. They met in singles.
A singles ward in Las Vegas?
A singles ward in Vegas is where they met before we moved there, before we moved to St. George. So...
What is a singles ward?
Oh, it's more...
So it's a Mormon... So like you have wards. So wards are like churches or groups from what I understand. And so all the single people go together so that, from my understanding, like they pair people in similar states of life together so that either they can find someone to marry or their kids can hang out. And if I'm mischaracterizing this, I'm not.
I had no idea that had to do anything with like Mormonism or religion anyway. And so that was when I heard singles ward in Las Vegas, that was not what I was thinking.
Yep. Yeah, it's not anything criminal. It's just
not at all. Okay,
it's actually
different than what I was thinking. Okay.
Yep.
When did you move to St. George?
Because Gina lived with us in Vegas, so they had been friends. So probably 1995 to 96.
Okay.
But remember, I'm really bad with dates.
So probably 10 or 11 years before the dates we're talking about in this case, they had been best friends?
Uh-huh. Affirmative.
That's yes?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Those don't come across very clear.
Oh, you're so sassy. Oh my God, sorry.
And you said that Gina Truman lived in your little casita in the back of your home in Las Vegas while she was best friends with your daughter. Is that accurate?
Yes.
I'll take it, of course, at some point in time, you knew that Rob and Wendy got married.
Yes.
Did you attend the reception?
Yes.
So have Rob and Wendy been friends of your family for quite a while?
Rob and Wendy?
Did I say that wrong?
I don't know.
Rob James?
Wendy is my daughter.
Had your daughter been friends of your family for quite a while?
Oh my God.
I apologize. How about Wendy? Gina has been a friend of your family for some time.
Yes.
And you attended Gina and her husband's wedding?
Which was held at my home.
Okay. So they got married at your home?
Yes.
Was a reception at your home or?
Yes, I really think it was just the reception.
At your home?
Yeah.
And when did that happen, do you think, between Gina and Mr. Oldroyd, Tom?
While we were in Vegas.
Okay, before you moved to St. George?
Before we started building our house here, that would have been mid-1990s.
All that aside, let's move to 2008. Now the time when doTERRA is formed. Can you jump all the way up to 2008 for me?
I'm having trouble with 2017, but I'll try.
Okay. There's been some testimony that the first meeting in first meeting in St. George was on February 28, 2008. Mr. Straight says, object. Mischaracterizes the record. The court says, overruled. Go ahead. You can explore on that redirect. Mr. Smith says, you've been shown what was marked and entered into evidence as 8611. That's dated the same day.
Affirmative.
So, February 28, 2008?
Correct.
I know you don't remember signing Exhibit 8611, but would that be consistent with the timeline in your mind that the first meeting was on February 28, 2008?
Yes.
And how many days or weeks before that meeting do you think it was before your daughter called you and invited you to come to that meeting? Days? Couple days?
Yeah, a few days, maybe a week. Well, Gina invited me to.
Oh, it was Gina, not Wendy.
It was Gina that invited me.
Okay. And when Gina invited you, did she kind of suggest that you bring some friends?
She did.
And that's the 4 ladies that you've already identified for us?
Affirmative.
That's a yes?
Yes.
That's okay. Now, I just want to make it clear on the first meeting on February 28th of 2008, was Dave Sterling at the meeting to the best of your recollection?
No.
Was Emily Wright at that meeting?
No.
Now, counsel asked in his deposition, he actually read a section of, not his deposition, but the deposition he took of you. He read a quote on page 17, starting at line 25 through line 2. May I, Your Honor, read that same page starting at line 20 and read through the answer that was read? The court says, go ahead. Thank you. Quote, question, did you attend a meeting in, and I'm just going to do question and answer. These are all quotes. All right. Did you attend a meeting in Gina Truman's house in mid-April 2008? Answer, I'm not sure the date, but yes, I did. Question, how long did that meeting last? Answer, hour. Question, who attended the meeting? Mid-April 2008 at Gina's house. Answer, a lot of people. End quote. Do you see that?
Yes.
Now, do you see how counsel, when he asked the question, asked you what date it happened, and you said, quotes, I don't know, end quote?
Yes. Yeah.
And then he said, quote, who attended the meeting in mid-April at your home, end quote?
Sorry, I lost my spot.
Yes.
Yes.
Is your testimony the same today as it was back in your depot at the time of your deposition was taken, that there was a meeting, but you were just not sure of the date back then?
That is correct.
Did you think it was fair of counsel when he said that the meeting took place in mid-April, even though you said you didn't know the date of it?
Yes.
Do you think it was fair of him to ask that way?
No.
Why not?
He was trying to befuddle me.
Someone in the chat said that. They called that.
Really? Oh my God.
Did you try to tell the best testimony you could at the time, Miss Levitt, when your deposition was taken?
Absolutely.
So let's just get the timeline. So this dude he could tell that there was also, yeah. Okay. So let's just get the timeline. You mentioned in your deposition the date April 3rd. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now, we've learned in here that there was another meeting in St. George on April 3rd at a place called Coral Canyon Clubhouse. Mr. Straight says, objection, Your Honor, assumes facts not in evidence. The court says overruled. Mr. Smith says, did you attend a meeting at the Coral Canyon Clubhouse on April 3rd of 2008?
Yes, I did.
Was that the second meeting you attended, as best you can recollect, regarding the DOTERRA enterprise that you soon became a part of?
Yes, it was.
And then the third meeting you identified was a meeting at the alumni house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Would that have been the third meeting that you ever attended involving DOTERRA?
Yes.
And I think your testimony was in your deposition that the third meeting, the one at the alumni house, either happened in late April or even into May. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Are those the 3 meetings in time?
3 meetings in time.
February 28th, April 3rd, and sometime either late April or early May. Is that fair?
Correct.
And the meeting that happened at the clubhouse on April 3rd of 2008, do you recall if David Sterling attended?
I don't recall exactly.
Do you recall if Emily Wright attended?
Yes.
Okay. That's why I didn't know who else was there, because she just was there. That's why I didn't know who else was. Wait, no, that's you. I was so confused.
Okay. That's
Do you
why I didn't know
recall
who else
if
was
Emily
there.
Wright attended?
Yes. And so then you said that.
Okay.
Wait, that's why I didn't know who else was there, because she was there. She just was there.
Okay. Meaning you met Emily Wright for the first time at the meeting?
Yes.
And did you get a chance to talk to her at the meeting?
Not long enough, but a little.
On April 3rd, 2008?
Correct.
And how about how about Dr. Hill? Was he at the meeting on April 3rd, 2008?
Can I say I think so, but I'm not really positive now. I just know Emily was there.
Okay. At the meeting at the clubhouse on April 3rd, were Boyd and Sandy Truman there?
I don't remember seeing them now. I don't remember.
How about the Herberts? Are you familiar with the Herberts?
Uh-huh. Affirmative.
That would be a yes.
Yes.
And how do you know the Herberts?
Through doTERRA.
Okay. Before the doTERRA meetings, would you have even known who the Herberts were?
Yes, can I say?
Yeah. If yes, I'll say, how did you know them?
Yes.
How did you know them?
I did a cooking show that I televised on TV, and we televised from Boyd Truman's offices. And Gordon Herbert used to come from his office over to eat the food I cooked. That's how I met him, and we became actually good friends. Wait, did we see the cooking show?
Oh my God.
Gorbert.
Oh my God, I can't do it. We're reading too long. Gordon Herbert. Oh my God. Y'all, if you can find this cooking show, let me know. I'll have to look. Oh my God.
Okay, only like 4 more
Gorbert.
Gorbert. I don't even know. So I think we're on line 7 though.
Okay, so you knew Boyd through Gina, and you met Gordon Herbert through the cooking show
That's correct.
at Boyd's office?
That's right.
So I take it that you saw the Herberts at one or more doTERRA meetings in your life since 2008.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the first time you saw the Okay.
Just
Okay.
Gerbert.
Do you remember the first time you saw the Herberts, either Gordon Herbert or Mrs. Herbert? At any of those meetings, I don't want you to guess. Do you remember when?
I don't remember which one.
Okay. Now, did Gina Truman come back from the convention in September 2007 with anti-religious literature that she showed you?
She did.
Mr. Straight says, objection, Your Honor, relevance. And the court says, overruled. Oh, did I not finish? Okay. Mr. Smith said, did she indicate to you? And Mr. Straight said, objection. May I be heard on this, Your Honor? The court says, approach. And a sidebar discussion was had. Mr. Smith, when did you see this literature that was anti-religious?
I don't know exactly. She brought it over to the house, to my house.
Was it before this meeting at Gina Truman's house that happened in February? In other words, would it have been prior in time to that?
Yes.
And can you tell us how many weeks or months prior in time that was handed to you?
Well, it was quite a while. It was quite a while.
And did she indicate to you from whom she had obtained this anti-religious literature?
Yes.
Who did she say?
Mary.
And as the last name do you have?
Young.
Mary Young? Did Gina Truman appear to be offended by this? Mr. Straight says, objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation. The court says overruled. The witness?
Yes.
Mr. Smith says, I have no other questions, Your Honor. Mr. Gaylord says, I have no questions, Your Honor. The court says redirect. Mr. Straight says, yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Holy crap.
What?
Holy crap. Listen.
If y'all have any like inside track onto what this anti-religious literature was, I would love for someone to send it to me.
Please.
Because that would be incredible. If I'm sure someone has saved it. Someone has to be a pack rat out there.
Right. That's huge.
All right, so we're at the redirect. How long is the redirect? Is it
one page?
Oh, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. It goes to we're at
171
171 and then we'll stop at 173.
Okay, cool. All
That's where Gordon Herbert comes.
Okay.
Gerbert.
Gerbert. You cannot unsee it now, and I can't unsee it. Okay.
All right.
Great. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Already.
Okay. And this, like the next two pages have spotty highlighting for some reason. Okay. Mr. Straight. Miss Levitt. Mr. Smith suggested that somehow during your deposition, I tried to trick you on the date. Do you remember that testimony he just asked you about a minute ago?
Not trick. I didn't use that word.
Muddled. I think that was a word. Is that fair?
Witness nodded head affirmatively.
Isn't it true that you were the one who testified from the outset that these events all happened during or after the first week of April 2008?
I did.
So how could I be trying to muddle it if you were the one who provided the date as April of 2008 and the first date as a first date?
Because you kept bringing up different dates, and I never knew which one you were talking about. You know, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I can tell you I don't remember everything perfectly.
But isn't it true that you told me that you knew that there was no other meetings in the St. George area prior to the first week of April 2008?
That I was aware of.
But that can't be true because there was a meeting on February 28th, at least, 2008 in St. George, right?
I'm sorry, what? See, I don't even remember the date you said.
Okay.
The 8th?
I asked whether you knew whether there were any meetings in the St. George area about doTERRA prior to April of 2008. And you told me that you knew there were not. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
Now, we know there certainly were meetings before that time.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions. Mr. Smith says no other questions, Your Honor. Gaylord says no other questions. The court says any objection to excusing Miss Levitt. Mr. Straight said not at all. No. Court says thank you. You can step down and just leave the items there. That's fine. Next witness, and we're done. Next is Gerbert.
Gerbert. We love
Gerbert.
Oh my god. Holy crap. I felt very like we got through with Justin Harrison and we got through with Patricia Levitt, and now we're about to do Gerbert next time. Next time we're doing Gerbert, and I cannot unsay that now. I cannot believe she said I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I cannot. Oh my god. Huge shout out to Kira Manchester for giving us these transcripts. I know someone else provided them to her. She's also made them available to other creators. It's very kind of her to share them. She's always very generous with things that don't out her sources. And really much appreciate that. Being able to bring all of this and try to do it at length and do it thoroughly. Huge shout out to Avery. Can I bring you on screen, Avery? Or yes? Avery has been working the live chat for us. Thank you so much. It's like
there were so many times I wanted to just like stop because they're just being so rude to her, and I just
for me. I was like, holy crap! I know I'm saying this, but I'm like getting anxiety, like the back and forth, and like they're being so rude to her. It was just awful. But Avery saved the day with the chat. Appreciate that so much. It's I don't know. Oh, there's another. Yes, I think that's actually the stenographer's note, for like accuracy of the transcript. So I don't think I'm saying affirmative, but so it's making it more.
But they never talked about that with anybody else. They were never liquid.
Yep. Which is weird. So I'm not sure why they didn't do that, unless the stenographer got a talking to by the judge or something and said, you need to be more clear. That could have happened too.
Yeah. The affirmative is yes.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. For sure.
Well, that was fun. That was good.
Kira does rock. She is on the mend. She's been sick, so send her good vibes and good thoughts. So she is on the mend, but she still is not feeling well. So oh cool. Beating a doormat. Hopefully we kept you company. So very much snaps for Avery, super snaps for Avery, hearts for Avery. Yes, lots of hearts. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I'm gonna play. I enjoyed that. Inspired me. I hope you liked my picture. Oh my gosh, Beth, I can't wait to see it. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and roll the outro. Thank you, everybody. We will catch you on the next the live stream. Okay.
Bye.
Let me do this. Bye.